Hey, what's up, folks? Todd Shellnut here with another exciting. I don't know why I do that. I don't know why I start these videos and these podcasts off with the word exciting when I'm talking about the fundamentals of instruction. What a crock of horse shit. And I apologize for that right off the bat. I go and apologize for even doing that. So I apologize. This is not fun to people who don't want to be flight instructors, and I don't know why I do that. But anyway, we're here today for one reason only, and that is to tell you what's going to be. How do you start? Not what's going to be, but how do you start? How do you start for preparing for this check ride? I don't. It's probably the top number one question on the board. Is that how do you even start to go prepare for this check ride? Well, we're looking at a document in which tells you the way to actually start doing it, and that's the practical test standards. And the PTS is going to be our backbone for exactly how we prepare and study for this exam. Of course, the other way, the publications that are going to marry along with this is going to be your private pilot ACS, your commercial pilot ACS, the Federal Aviation Regulations, the Airman's Information Manual, the PHAC, the pilots, the airplane maneuvers, airplane flying. What's that thing called? Airplane Flying Handbook? Yeah, Airplane Flying Handbook. So a montage, a cornucopia, a plethora, if you will, of other documents in which we have to learn for this. But today, we're just really only going to concentrate, on this presentation, we're only going to concentrate on two, and I'm just going to kind of give you just a little bit of information to be started, to get started. And so let's look at these two publications. So the first publication, of course, is the PTS. And the one thing that you want to make sure about this PTS is that what you have up here is the current FAA-S, which S stands for the standards, flight instructor standards, and then the 8081-6 Delta with changes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you don't have changes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then this is not going to be good for you. So make sure that you do this, because you got to have the most current and updated publication in order to get the proper information for this thing. So let's move on to the next one. What's the next one? Well, the next one's going to be, let me drop the screen down here, is going to be your FAA-H, which stands for Handbook, 8083-9 Alpha, and that's your Aviation Instructor's Handbook. And this thing is really immense with a lot of information. It starts, we're going to start today our stuff today right here on this page here, because I'm actually going to go over the table of contents and kind of show you how the PTS works hand in hand with this book while studying. Okay, so I'm assuming that you're listening to this video because you don't have any, you have no idea where to go or where to turn to study. So this is going to be a very brief, less than probably 10-minute video about how to get started. And then every video that follows this is going to be in sequence. So you want to follow the videos in sequence. Don't jump around, because that's simply just not going to get you where you want to go faster. So you got to make sure you know the information first. Now, let's go back over to the flight instructor's practical test standards, and let's talk about this just a minute. When you're looking at this publication that's downloaded online, it's in two parts, and you have the very first one that you open up to. It says Flight Instructor Airplane Practical Test Standards, and you scroll down, and it's got a bunch of stuff here in the forward of it, which we're going to come back and look at some of these. But let's actually scroll down here to the meat and potatoes, and that is this very first page. Big money, no whammies, and stop. Here we go. So this is the first part of it, which is on page 41-ish of the publication. And it is section 1, Flight Instructor Airplane Single Engine. So if you're going to be a single engine instructor, well, this is where you would start. If you're going to be a multi-engine instructor, well, you've got to scroll down. Let's see here. All right, big money, no whammies, and stop. Oh, I just passed it. All right, so you would go back up to the part here where it says section 2, Flight Instructor multi-engine or airplane multi-engine, section 2. So if you're going to be a multi-engine instructor, initial, this is where you would be. Or if you're going to take an add-on. So if you already have a multi-engine instructor and you want to add on your single, well, then you got to go back to section 1 to see what you're going to do on your check ride. And if you're already a single engine instructor and you're going to add on the multi-instructor, well, then you have to go to section 2 to see what you're going to add on to the check ride. So let's go ahead and assume that you're going to do your multi-engine first. So I would scroll down, and the first thing I would see here would be an additional rating task table. This is stating that you already have one of these flight instructor ratings, and you're going to be adding on a multi-engine airplane to one of these flight instructor ratings that you hold. If you're an initial flight instructor, this does not apply to you, but it may be asked on your check ride, how do you study for an additional rating added onto your instructor? Well, then you would say I'd go to page 119 and look at the additional rating task table to add on the multi-engine to my single. Or if I go back to chapter 1 or section 1 of this, I would see AME in this blank here. So there you go. And in here it says renewal or reinstatement. So after you get your flight instructor certificate and you get ready to renew or you get ready to reinstate, the reinstate means that you've let your stuff lapse like a complete idiot. I don't know why you would ever let your instructor lapse. You would have to go and actually the only way to reinstate it is to take another check ride with the FAA or with an examiner who's qualified to do so. So please, for the love of God, do not let your CFI lapse. You'll have to go through so much bull crap to get it back. In reference to what you could do for just a renewal, and we'll talk about renewal in another episode. But so if you want to renew or reinstate and you're actually going to do the flying portion, then this is what you would have to do. So we'll talk about every area of operation, and we'll talk about the task within each area of operation as we go forward from here. But for today, this is just what you want to look here, just for renewal or reinstatement here. And like here it says down here that if you renew or reinstate any CFI, it renews all your CFIs. So if you're MEI, CFI, and CFII, and then you want to get a instructor glider, then that'll renew all your instructor certificates or reinstate them if they're expired. So let's move on down. It's a very common question here. Todd, what do I need to take into my check ride with me? Well, luckily the PTS provides a checklist. So here's what you take into the checklist. I tell you, it's a problem with people over the years. They simply just don't look at these practical test standards. They don't read the ACS or read the PTS. And every time I start you should start a check ride as an examiner, I would say, are you familiar with the ACS? They would go, yes, sir. And I would go, no, you're not. I mean, I wouldn't say that out loud. I'd say it to myself, but you get the point. So this is what you would take inside of the check ride with you as you go in for your applicant's practical test checklist appointment with examiner or inspector. And there you go. Now, this next checklist is for the examiner himself. So the examiner would actually, in the old school days, or they would just fill this out, and then as they go down the line, they would just click these boxes of what they did, and they would probably retain this as a record, so that if somebody says, well, Mr. Inspector, did you make sure that when you inspected Mr. Shellnut, that you asked him all the fundamentals of instruction that's required by the PTS? And they would go, yeah, well, actually I did. You know, I went over section task E, and then I went over task B. And they would go, okay, since you have a record of it, that's fine. And so this is the way that goes. You don't get asked every one of this stuff, every one of these checkbox items. You don't get asked every one. So hopefully you wouldn't be asked every one, because that would really make a long day for the examiner. And the examiner gets paid one price for one check ride, so why wouldn't he want to be as quickly as possible about getting through? I mean, if you throw up some really stupid thing, you start answering questions kind of idiotic, and you got your head up your rear end, then yeah, of course it's going to be big problems, and you're probably going to be there all day. But if you're well prepared, then you don't have to worry about those things. All right, let's move on, because I told you 10 minutes, and it looks like I'm going to go over that. So down here, it's just the rest of the stuff that the examiner would ask, and we'll go on down here. So this is, I think, probably one of the most important pages. Here is the page 1 of the PTS, and so as we're looking here, it says area of operation 1. Areas of my go away thing there. Whatever that thing is, that PDF crap. Let's make this mouse stand still here just a minute. All right, I guess it's not going to go away. Let's do this. So, you have area of operation 1, fundamentals of instruction, and it says, note, the examiner shall select task E and one other task. So you have task A, human behavior and effective communication. This is your reference. Now, do you remember where you saw this reference at? That's right. That's the Aviation Instructor's Handbook. And so we have A and B and C and D and E and F and finally G. So there's 7 FOI subject areas that you had to be familiar with, of which on a standard everyday check ride, with the examiners doing the check ride the way he's supposed to do the check ride, he only needs to ask you 2 things, which is 1, task E, and one other task. The examiner shall select task E and one other task. If he asks you task A and he's really not convinced, well, actually, he's supposed to fail you, but most of them just ask you to do another one and see if they can't draw their information on it, because it's not their intention is to fail you in the check ride. It's kind of ridiculous. You don't want to walk into a check ride with the whole intention of failing someone. So let's look at how you would study for this. So you have 7 things here within task A, which is 1 through 7, the definitions and human needs and motivation. So where in the world does this information come from? Well, we've already stated that. It comes right there. The 8083-9 alpha. So if we were to say, okay, definitions of human behavior, that's the first thing that I need to talk about. So the examiner says, okay, tell me about human behavior and effective communication. So you go, sure, I'll tell you about that. So it says, to determine that the applicant exhibits instructional knowledge of human behavior and effective communication and how these impact effective learning. So while you are talking to the examiner and you're giving him your hook, your reason for giving human behavior and effective communication speech, the lesson that you're going to give them, one of the things that you're going to really talk about at the beginning is how this human behavior and effective communication impact effective learning. So the answer to start the conversation with the examiner is right there in the beginning. You could talk about any story that you want to, but you're really going to hone on these how these 2 things affect have the impact they have on effective learning. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the other tab that I have open, which is the Aviation Instructor's Handbook. And as you can see here, what we have is definitions of human behavior, then human needs and motivation. So if you look over here, you can see that we have definitions of human behavior, and then we have human needs and motivation. Of course, if you go back over here, it says defense mechanisms, student emotional reactions. So let's see what we have. Defense mechanisms there, student emotional reactions there, and so on and so on. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually find that everything within this here, all the way down to developing communication skills, is going to be right here, all the way down to well, actually it says human behavior and effective communication. So it's chapter 1, then we go to chapter 3, which is here. And you can see here it says basic elements of communication. So if we go back to here, it says basic elements of communication. And then barriers and developing. So we go back over here, and we have scroll down here. Where's it at? Barriers for effective communication. Well, I guess I just messed this up, didn't I? No, I didn't. Oh, here it is. Good gracious. See, I'm such an idiot. Look at that. I went straight from there straight down there. I forget this is a book on a screen. Duh. There it is right there. It's like, God, I can't be that incredibly stupid, but I guess I was. Barriers to effective communication and then developing communication skills. So you can see chapter 3 is extremely short, and it marries right along with Chapter 1 for the human behavior. So when you get ready to start preparing, and you want to probably just go through the Aviation Instructor's Handbook, highlight these areas, and read about those. And of course, in a future program, we'll have the acronyms associated with these and how to commit these to memory a little bit better. But this is where you start. And this is just basically covering how you would walk into the door, the 2 publications to pick up, and the 2 things to start. Because as of now, you're already a commercial pilot or an airline transport rated pilot. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to qualify to even take this exam. And so if you're a commercial pilot or an ATP pilot, you should have all the other skills and knowledge already needed for this exam. If you don't, then picking up this book is a waste of your time right now. Because if you can't talk about airspace and weight and balance and nav logs and aeromedical and the whole rundown of everything else, then you're not ready to take this Checkride. So I would just go ahead and just go back to the basic core items and review all your basic core items with your instructor before moving forward. But anyway, here's a brief 17-minute video about how to get started. I'm sorry I took so long, folks. I just got so much to say, and I probably got a little bit sidetracked. But I think this is going to really get you started, because this is how I get all my folks started. And I think I produce a very powerful client in realms of the FOIs, because the bottom line is that nobody wants to learn this. But you have to. If you want to be a teacher, you have to learn the FOIs. Otherwise, you just need to go to school to learn how to be a teacher. Because you will be a teacher when you become certified as a flight instructor, and you got to know how to teach. And the FOIs is a mini course in psychology dealing with teaching. Well, that's all I got for you today, folks, and I look forward to many of these presentations as we continue to roll these off the assembly line. And you'll probably get a new one probably every week or every couple days. I mean, things are really just going quick, these ideas. I got to get this information out of my head before I freaking explode. So anyway, thanks so much for your time. If you have any questions, please drop some comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you at the airport. See ya.